today we're going to be talking about value selling secrets, just different things that you can do that will add value to kind of separate yourself from what everybody else is doing out there. It seems like so many agents are so focused on selling based on just the cheapest thing out there, face amounts and premium, and that's it. And it's like they always feel like they have to sell the absolute cheapest option out there. In my opinion, not always the cheapest is the best. I mean, I think about just different things that you buy. Heck, do you want to buy a used car that's got 250,000 miles on it because it's cheaper? Or do you want to buy a newer car with less mileage? That, yeah, you're going to have to pay a little bit more money, but it's probably going to run longer, last longer. Just little things like that. There's more to the story, I guess you could say, or to the picture than just a product and its face amount and prices. There's just so much more to it. So that's basically what this training is today, is to kind of talk to you guys about just different ways of adding value to your presentation and to what you're doing outside of just selling based on face amounts and rates. So I do have Chris with me this morning too. Good morning, Chris. How are you?
I've got all kinds of notes ready to go on value today.
So some value selling secrets. Why do agents sell based on the lowest price available? For one thing, I think it is a competitive market. And I think that a lot of agents, they have that fear that if they don't write the absolute cheapest thing out there, that there's a real good chance that their business is going to get replaced. And I just kind of feel like, well, I mean, heck, I worked for a company that had the highest rates out there for 11 and a half years. And I had persistency that hung around 90%. So it's like everybody talks about how all this business gets replaced. But I think if anything, people's business gets replaced if they're not selling the value. If all they're doing is going in and selling on face amounts and rates, just like they could with any other product. But when you're adding a lot more to that, a lot more to the presentation, a lot more than just selling the insurance. I think that the target market, yes, we are working with a target market of people, middle to low income seniors. They're primarily just living on Social Security, and that's it. So they don't really have a whole lot to work with. So maybe that's one thing. Maybe that's why agents are looking for the absolute cheapest product available to sell, not really adding any more value outside of that, because they are trying to keep it affordable for the client. So why should we sell based on value? I think it separates us from the competition. Like I said, I think so many agents, they go in and that's all they're talking about is face amounts and rates. And then if that's all you're selling on, well, then the next product that comes out that maybe is a few dollars cheaper, well, you're setting yourself up to get replaced, even if you were offering the cheapest thing out there. So that's why, to me, I think it's important to add some value. It makes what you're selling unique and different than everybody else. I always try to make what I'm selling different. They could tell me that they just took out a policy with a carrier that I write business with, and I'm still going to figure out a way to make this different than than the product that they just took out a policy with. And I think by selling on value, it greatly improves persistency. Like I mentioned, a company that kind of has a reputation of maybe not having the best persistency or easily replaceable business. Those that sell it the right way and they focus on the value propositions, they're doing just fine. They're not losing a lot of business, even though the fact that their premiums are significantly higher than some of the competition out there. So just some different ways to add value. I think one thing, you're selling yourself. So you want to let the prospect know that you're going to be there from beginning to end. Like, let the prospect know that this isn't just like a one-time thing. You're going to be there for their family at that time, when they pass away. You're going to be there to help them and assist them and support them and do everything that you can to make sure that it's a smooth process, to make sure that the family pays what they should be paying for things, making sure that that claim gets paid quickly, make sure that they're not getting taken advantage of by the funeral home. That's what I do. I mean, I tell them if they want to contact me, I'd be more than happy to help. Whether the family contacts me or not, well, that's up to the family. But my selling point is, yes, I'm here for them and I'm here for you from beginning to end, because I want to make sure that this serves its purpose. And, we want to make sure when we're selling final expense, well, I want to make sure that money's there to cover their final expenses. And if they're dragging their feet, if the insurance company's dragging the feet, if the doctor's dragging his feet or her feet with getting that death certificate put out there, well, same thing. I mean, I got to make sure we get this process moving, because I want that money to be there for the family when they need it.
Yeah, I was thinking for a second, because kind of the thing I've been continuing to think about since yesterday is I wonder if some agents struggle to establish value in the product because they don't value it themselves. Like maybe they're not understanding how important this death benefit is to this particular person and their particular family, because 10, 15, $20,000 is meaningless to them, or the prospect, the senior, their family is unimportant to them. I think agents get to this point where they've got a lot of money in the bank, they know what they're doing, that they see lesser value in what you're doing. So I would encourage people that if you're having issues closing business, then maybe it's that you need to value the business more particularly. I think sometimes agents don't even value the fact that their license affords them the opportunity to buy time and print money. They make poor decisions and risk their license because they're not valuing what this business provides to them. So as much as you need to build value in the product you're selling to them, you need to also value it yourself to really help close a lot of business.
I think you're right. I think, maybe it's something that people maybe need to, like, maybe it's like an acquired sort of thing. Like maybe it's not going to just happen overnight, but you got to believe in what you're selling. You got to learn it. You got to see the value in it yourself, and you got to see what it's doing to help families in their time of need. I've said it in the past too, that maybe $10,000-$15,000 to us doesn't seem like a ton of money, but it is something that's gonna change the way things work for a family when they really need it. And to us, our clients that are living on that fixed income, this is a pretty big deal. But yeah, you're right. I mean, I've had even agents, even other managers that I've worked with in upper management roles, like they're managing people even, and like they didn't even really believe in this. And it's like, how can you do that? I don't understand that. Like, you got to believe in what you're doing. And I don't know. I feel like whether you're working with agents or even if you're selling to the client, people can tell like when you're genuine and like when you truly do believe in what you're doing and what you're selling.
People
And
can read it
yeah,
too when you're forcing it. Like when you're not being
yeah,
authentically yourself, when you're reading off of a script, when you're trying to close it more for your own benefit than for theirs. Value is such like a probably a circle of different things, not just making this product seem like more than it is. Well, because that's what salesmanship is. But I think also, does the agent themselves value themselves enough? And I think people succeed in this business when their why is big enough, when their need is big enough. But when they're not valuing themselves, that's also why they're underperforming. So as much as we talk about building value in the sale today, I still want to encourage people to value yourself. Like you can really do a lot of good in this business for yourself, your family, and the families you serve if you value it enough.
it makes a huge difference. I believe in what I do and what I sell, and I see, because you know what, I've been through it. I mean, I've seen how it works when, just from stories that my clients have told me from beginning to end. I mean, it happens all the time where somebody passes, they weren't prepared, and the whole family's running around trying to figure out how to pay for it. I hear that story probably at least once every day when I'm out in the field. So that's where what we do really does make a big difference. Our clients, they're doing this for a reason, and it's not for them. They're doing it for their family. Now, focus on working with carriers. This would be a recommendation to you that has a good reputation of paying claims quickly. Like I mentioned, we want to make sure that this is going to serve its purpose. Well, it's not going to serve its purpose if that person passes away on Monday and 4 months later the claim still hasn't been paid. That doesn't really do the family much good. We're talking about needing something that's going to cover those immediate expenses. Now, of course, a contestable claim, meaning that person dies within the first 2 years, it is going to take a little bit longer to pay out. But I mean, there's a lot of carriers out there that on uncontestable claims, meaning that policy is more than 2 years old, that will pay those claims within 24 to 72 hours. So that's something you can always ask the carriers that you're working with. And if they don't know the answer to that, well, then that might not be one that you want to write business with. You want to know how fast those claims are going to be paid because, like I said, you want to make sure that this is going to serve its purpose. And there's even some on contestable claims. They'll tell you it really just depends on how fast we get all the required documentation. But as long as the doctor is quick with getting that death certificate out there, and like I said, it's a good idea to get involved as an agent in those situations too, to speed up that process. I've seen contestable claims paid in 7 to 10 days, even within those first 2 years, where I've seen some companies 5-6 months later where the claim still hasn't been paid, where they're still under review. So I think it's just, that's why it's important to do our part.
I think it's crazy that in this industry, as we talk about carriers paying claims quickly, they depend on us doing our jobs correctly to pay the claims correctly. I had a situation, I think it was last week or the week before, Adam, where I went back to see an existing client who filled out a lead again, made an appointment again. I get in the door thinking, hey, maybe she's still on the books. Turns out she wasn't, because the last agent that was in the home 3 or 4 months ago wrote her a new policy, put her down as a non-smoker when it smelled like it's been smoking for 20 years in that apartment. She's still smoking today just to make the sale. Like, obviously, they don't value themselves, their business, their ethics, the client, the carrier, none of it. They didn't value a single thing except their own bottom line to make that kind of decision. I think value is also, if you want the carrier to pay claims quickly, you got to write good quality business so they can continue to pay claims quickly. I was talking to another carrier that same week. They paid $15 million over projections during COVID in claims. These carriers afford it. They save it. They have it in reserves. But the products that we sell, if you value them, treat them with respect. Treat it like you're the insurance company. If you're clean sheeting, lying, putting down no just to get it pushed through, these products are not going to stay on the market. If they already are paying over projections during a pandemic, they need us to value our ethics as well and not clean sheet and lie just to get an application.
Yeah, that's something too. I mean, I always tell my clients, like, any policies that you have, bring them out. Let's take a look at them. And I'll tell them, in my experience, there's so many times that I run into a policy that just doesn't make sense, that should have never been written, or that the client thinks it's completely different than what it really was intended to be used for. Or they might think that they're covered forever. They come to see that it wasn't a whole life policy. It might have been a term policy, and they had no idea. That's something that I've run into a lot, where they'll pull out their policy and I'll show them like the explanation of benefits page, and the benefits summary that shows like year 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way down. And it shows like the annualized premium, and it might show like a level premium for 20 years. And then after that, like that premium quadruples. And I tell them that means that this is a term policy, because maybe you can renew it, but you in 20 years, your premium is going to go from $80 a month to $260 a month. Is that something that you think you're going to be able to handle?
Of course not.
And they're like, what do you mean? And I show them the policy benefit page, and they're like, wow, I didn't even realize that. He told me that this was whole life. Sometimes I think that it's either the agent, maybe they just don't know. Maybe they're pretty new to the business and they just don't really understand the difference, or they're just trying to write a very cheap, affordable option with a high face amount. And they figure, well, that's all right. That client, they're probably not going to live 20 years anyways. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I mean, we can't play God. We don't know how long the person's going to live. We need to set the people up the way that they want to be set up. So that's why I think I always tell my clients, you're better safe than sorry. If I'll take a look at it, if it looks good, I'll tell you. But if for some reason there's something that doesn't make sense, at least we know right now.
I think value is also built in your professionalism, in your experience, in your knowledge, in your willingness to, even if they say, "Oh, don't worry about it. I have $1 million of whole life for $10 a month," to push a little bit further and do the policy review, to go over it, to check the application, to make sure it was done correctly. Basic things like, is their birth date written down correct? If it isn't, you could die 20 years from now and still going to be a problem. Like, just do your job proficiently, professionally, and you're building value in them trusting you because you're going the extra mile and you're showing them stuff that you didn't know and you're demonstrating your experience level. That's valuable. Like, anyone can walk in and write an application with a carrier contract and a license. That's not anything special. It takes value in you taking the time to educate and review, where other agents would have just, written the low-hanging fruit and kept moving.
Yep, exactly. So, yeah, like I said, focus on working with carriers that have the good reputation of playing the claims quickly. Another way of adding value are the pre-arrangement funeral guides. That's just something too it's separating you from that person that is just talking about face amounts and rates. I always try to make this like a real thing, and we talk about what that day is going to look like when that time comes, and I'll even talk about past experiences with other families. And when I pull out the pre-arrangement guide in my presentation, I even tell people this is something that the family doesn't like talking about, and a lot of times the family is just left clueless because they never had these sort of conversations. So at least with this pre-arrangement guide, you can fill it out, you can leave it to your family, and it's almost like your blueprint of how you want everything handled when that time comes. I mean, I think your family's going to really appreciate that you took the time to do this, don't you think? And they always say, yeah, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I really like that. And they'll even tell me, well, my other insurance doesn't do all of this. And it's like, pretty cool. I mean, all it is a piece of paper, but again, it's adding value because they see that too, that it's going to make things easier by them taking 10 minutes one night and putting something together that's going to make things a lot easier on their family when the time comes.
You know what you just did right there, Adam, in talking about funeral guides, is you just made the purchase tangible. Final expense, we all know this, right, is an intangible purchase. There isn't a single thing they can do with it. Can't keep warm at night, can't cook it, can't drive it around, can't take it on a date, can't do anything with it. They're going to pay their whole life, whatever amount of life they have left, a good portion of whatever income they have left, for something they can't do anything with. What you've just done there is made the purchase valuable because you made it tangible.
Now, like you said, it kind of makes it something, well, now I have this that I can hold in my hand and fill out. And like you said, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Let's see here. And then different riders that are available. We're going to talk about one product today that has quite a few riders that are available. Some that I'd never even heard of, that I've never heard of their companies doing, but just different riders that are available out there. There's some companies will have even like a nursing home waiver of premium rider. That's like a good option because a lot of times when people end up in a nursing home, the nursing home takes over their assets. And they end up, without anything left. They might even tell them, well, you can't have this life insurance policy. Well, with a nursing home waiver of premium, well, they no longer will have to worry about making those premium payments, but they're not going to lose their policies. So that's just one example. We'll talk about a few others, but right there, those sort of little things are adding value that, again, that's going to separate you from the person that just walks in and says, oh, you want 20,000? Okay, that'll be $47 a month. Like, there's more to it than just that. And then products with funeral concierge services. There's a few of them out there. And that's something too, that when my clients qualify for the product that we're going to be talking about today, I always will talk about their funeral concierge service that's incorporated in with it, because it's adding a lot of value. It's another thing that is separating what we're doing from what anybody else is doing out there. And it's giving the client the mindset that they're not just taking out another life insurance policy. This is their funeral plan. This is like their prearranged plan. And that's what the funeral concierge services do. So yeah, we'll get into that too here. So the product that I wanted to talk about is it's American Amicable. And the company is American Amicable. And then their product is the Platinum Solution product that I don't feel like a whole lot of different agencies are really pushing or even set up to write. There's some, but not many. But I think that it's something that, like I said, that funeral concierge. Now, I was talking earlier about how I wrote business with a company that has a reputation of very poor persistency because their rates are higher than pretty much everybody. But they also had like this same sort of thing, like a funeral concierge service incorporated in with it. And I always sold that, not just the life insurance. And because of that, that's why I believe my persistency was a lot better than most, because those that were pushing that, again, it's giving the people that mindset. This is my funeral plan. This isn't just another life insurance policy. So when another agent comes in and all they're talking about is life insurance, well, that's fine. I got plenty of life insurance, but you're not going to touch my funeral plan. This plan, this is totally different. You're not going to touch that. And so same thing, that's, American Amicable. This is just a real quick thing here about them back in 2021. This was like the first big year of COVID after 2020, when a lot of claims were starting to be paid out. They paid out over 13,000 claims, totaling over $141 million in death benefits. So we're talking about small $15,000, $20,000 on average policies. And that's it. But a lot of them.
I'm no mathematician, but this is an interesting stat. $141 million in claims payouts on 13,000 policies is approximately $10,800 face amount.
Yeah, I was just thinking it's got to be just a little over 10 grand.
13,000 $10,000 policies equals $141 million. 13,000 families and generations impacted. Like, that's significant stuff. We need to value what we do, because look at that. How many the long-term effects that has in protecting families, especially in underserved communities that barely get by as it is. They protected like that poverty chain from continuing forward by at least having a respectable conclusion to their life. Like, this is the serious amounts of money.
Well, then if you think about it, Chris, that's an average of paying out about 35 claims a day. And that's even counting weekends. So a little bit more than that. Figure about, 40 policies a day paying claims on. That's a lot. That's a lot of claims to be paying out in one day. And they're paying them out pretty quickly. Usually, again, within like 48 hours on the non-contestable claims. So, that's why when my clients qualify, this is usually my first option, because I know that they're going to do their part and that they're going to pay those claims quickly. And that's, like I said, I want to make sure that what I'm selling is going to serve its purpose and it's going to be there for what it's intended for. So a little bit about American Amicable. They've been around for 114 years now, since 1910. That's another thing I think that gives my clients a little bit of confidence. It's not like some fly by night. They've been around a long time. They've been doing this for a very long time, and they're very successful. They're financially stable. Home office is in Waco, Texas. I was out there about, 14 months ago, 16 months ago, something like that, a little over a year ago. And really nice company, really nice people. The home office, it's crazy how with COVID, everything has gone so remote. I was in their home office, really nice old building. It's like the oldest building in Waco. and there was hardly anybody there. There was like maybe like a dozen people working in the whole office. Everybody else was at home. But those people that came in and they spoke with us, and just the way that they look at things. I was very impressed. Even like the terminology when they talk about like the agents that they work with and the agencies they work with. They always say our agent partners, our agency partners. Like they kind of look at it as we are all in this together. They don't look at it as though they are like above us. They see the work that's involved. They've actually even taken people from the home office out in the field to kind of see like what we go through on a regular day. And, they even told me like, boy, the stuff that you guys have to go through, like, yeah, we get it. Like, we know that you guys are just out there working hard and doing everything that you can to help people and write business. There's other companies out there that I feel are maybe a little bit of the opposite, where they think that like all agents are bad and like everyone's just out there to get everybody. And they're looking at all the applications with like a magnifying glass. And it's really not the case. We're just out there trying to earn a living. And I think that's, like I said, one thing that really impressed me with American Amicable. That's just kind of how they look at it is, they're just, and just some of the different things that they do that we'll get to too, as far as like their underwriting, but they're A-rated, AM Best, A-rated. A lot of agents out there that I've talked to in the past will call me and ask about different carriers and the ratings. Well, they're A-rated. They're a good company. They're not going anywhere. They were acquired by Industrial Alliance Insurance and Financial Services. I think it's kind of like a private equity partner back in 2010, who has $109 billion in assets. So to me, I mean, that's just right there. I mean, yeah, American Amicable is not going anywhere. They're financially secure and they have a lot of money to invest into even improving and getting better for the future. So the Platinum Legacy product is the same underwriting for those of you who are currently with or contracted with American Amicable. It's the same underwriting as the Senior Choice, the Family Choice, also like the Golden Solutions.
Yep. All the same chassis, thankfully.
Yeah, it's all the same. I mean, they have a whole bunch of different product names. There's even agencies and IMOs who have like their own products that are designed with American Amicable, but it's all pretty much the same. The only difference for the most part is that the rates might be a little bit different based on the product, but the underwriting is all pretty comparable. But at least I know for sure the Senior Choice, the Golden Solutions, same underwriting as the Platinum Solution, the Platinum Legacy. One thing though, that's pretty cool with the Platinum product is that they do not reduce your commission on a return of premium, which most companies call it like a modified product. So like the modified product, if there's like the 2-year waiting period, they do not reduce your commission if you're writing the modified with them. They call it return of premium. Most companies are going to reduce your commission at least 20% on a modified. So pretty cool that they'll take the modified business on the Platinum. The reason that they don't reduce your commission is because of all the stuff we're going to be talking about with that funeral concierge service. It's something that adds value that they know is going to improve persistency, and that business is going to stay on the books. So they're willing to pay you and not take a cut in the commission, because they know that they have the confidence in knowing that business is going to stick.
Yeah, there's a lot of companies out there now that with profoundly liberal underwriting, but the underwriting for ROP, it's still extremely liberal. Like you could have had a heart attack yesterday, qualify for modified. You can't have CHF, can't be dying, can't be on oxygen. But generally speaking, the modified is extremely liberal and is still very competitive. Now, there are carriers with modified benefits that are criminal. Like, how is it this expensive? Who approved this? Their rates are still also extremely fair for modified.
Yeah, you're right. And like what you said, I mean, they take a good portion of the business. Yeah, they're not going to take congestive heart failure. They're not going to take some of the other declines like HIV and AIDS and like Alzheimer's and dementia,
Current
things like
cancer.
that. But what's that again?
Current cancer.
Yeah, current cancer, things like that. But for the most part, I mean, you're going to be able to write a good portion of your business with them, even like I said, even on the ROP, the modified.
Mhm.
And again, heck, if you know someone's going to be modified, well then why don't
Why
you
not
look
keep
into the rates with American Amicable, because you're not going to take a big commission cut on that product. Where anywhere else, heck, I mean, I've seen some that it's a giant cut in commission. Yeah, maybe you can write the business, but you're taking a huge cut. Sometimes your commission can get cut in half
Yep.
when you're writing modified. So heck, if the rates are pretty close, why not write the platinum product, and then you're not taking half a commission cut. You got to look out for yourself too, you know.
Three-legged stool. You, carrier, client. There it is. Yeah, you got to stay in business yourself. It's not charity work.
There you go. And now the premiums on the platinum solution, they are a little bit higher than the senior choice and the family choice. Now, if you're wondering what the difference between senior choice and family choice is, well, senior choice is ages 50 to 85, and the family choice is ages 0 to 49. So the product is pretty much the same. The underwriting might be a little bit tighter on the younger ages, but for the most part, it's pretty comparable as far as the underwriting goes. Now, and this can be written in home and also over the phone, the platinum product. And you know what? The process is super easy too for over the phone. They now have like a text to sign feature that's
Mhm.
super easy, where the person gets a text and from there they can complete it that way. It's very simple and easy. So if you are selling over the phone, I think it is a very good option. You don't have to do any sort of phone call or recorded phone interview or anything anymore, and you'll still get the instant approval.
Mhm. I think nowadays, real quick side note here, they've
Yeah.
made it so simple to play by the rules over the phone with text to sign or record into a voicemail box that you got to play by the rules when you're selling over the phone, because these carriers, including American Amicable, they check IP addresses, they see where you are, they verify, they look at signature combinations. They're paying attention. There's compliance departments, there's red flag alerts when things don't seem right. You're selling at 2 in the morning in Eastern time. Someone's looking at that. Like, you might think you're taking a shortcut that no one's going to notice until you're terminated by the carrier for taking that shortcut. So when they make it easy to play by the rules, I think it's a good idea that you do that.
Yeah, most definitely. That's important too, to not shortcut things. And I mean, we've both seen it in the past. Agents get terminated by carriers just for doing stuff that they're not supposed to be doing. And maybe it wasn't even like purposely trying to commit fraud and
Mhm.
stuff like that. It doesn't matter though. Like these companies, they're not looking at like 10 agents and saying, okay, well, that one's terminated and that one's not. Like if it's the same offense, it doesn't matter who you are or what you've done. It's like zero tolerance. Like,
Yeah.
sorry, but these companies, they have to look out for themselves too.
Yeah, you don't pay
And
out $141 million in claims, not have to deal with some level of fraud they have to clear off the books, but they have to protect themselves from that. They have to protect themselves to their private equity, to the reinsurance company, to the state department of insurance across the country. You're unfortunately, it's one and done. This isn't a corporate job where you're going to get progressive discipline. This isn't a corporate job where you're going to get brought into HR to have a training session about it. You get caught doing something you weren't supposed to, even if it was probably the right thing to do. If it wasn't done correctly, that's it. Bye. You're done with that
yeah, that's
company.
it. Like I said, zero tolerance. Nothing you can do about it. And
It sucks too, but yeah.
it's kind of a shame because heck, if it's a good product, I mean, then you're out of it. You can't write them anymore. You got to find other solutions. So, oh, and then some of these no cost benefits, like I mentioned earlier, when we're selling on value, it's heck, no cost benefits. They're not even paying for these benefits, but they're incorporated in with the policy. Well, you might as well bring them up because it's adding that value. This one, especially, every time I bring this up to the client, like their eyes just get really, really big. The terminal illness accelerated death benefit. When I tell the client that if you were to be diagnosed with a terminal illness and your doctor sends over a letter to the insurance company letting them know of the terminal illness, you're going to get 100% of that death benefit while you're still living. They're looking at me like, what? What do you mean? Like, you mean I'm going to get that $25,000 like while I'm still here? And I'm like, yeah. If you were to be diagnosed with a terminal illness, you'll get that death benefit while you're still here. And then I'll tell them you can then it's going to make things even easier on your family because you're going to be able to take that money. You're going to be able to run down to the funeral home. You're going to be able to pay everything off yourself before the facts, set up everything just the way that you want it while you're still in the right frame of mind and while your family's not grieving. And then when it's all said and done with and you got your funeral paid for, you got money left over, well, you can give it to your family while you're still here. Or you could even maybe take a trip together, enjoy some of your final days on earth with your family and do something nice. So yeah, they really like that, the terminal illness death benefit. And again, it's a free benefit. And I think it's important to, explain it kind of like the way I explained it.
Yeah, it adds sizzle. I think you should add sizzle during and after the sale. Build credibility in the carrier once you know they've been approved. Don't make the mistake and find out you can't get something. But build sizzle in the product. The more they get excited about it, the more they see value in it, the less likely they are to fill out another lead and let somebody else in their home. You can't protect them from that, but you build value in something, they're going to keep that something.
Exactly. And then they also have an accelerated death benefit for this plan for confined care. What that means is if you were to end up in a nursing home, they will pay you a monthly allowance, is what I call it, a monthly allowance of 5% of the face amount of the policy. So while you're in that nursing home, you're going to be getting on a $10,000 policy, you'd be getting $500 a month while you're in there. And same thing. I mean, I guess if the nursing home has taken over all your money, that at least gives you a little something. Another way around that nursing home rider, though, too, Chris, I always think about is all the person really has to do is change ownership, right? Like they could change ownership to one of their family members, and then the nursing home can't take over that policy. You're telling them they can't have it, right?
Well, you're building value in you as the agent servicing the business after the business was written. Because what people don't realize, whoever watches this one day, this week, next month, or 10 years from now, there are so many opportunities for additional business to be written by servicing your business, by helping during a death claim, by checking on somebody whose account came back as frozen or closed. Guess what happens? They close your bank account when you're dead. Maybe Miss Johnson's deceased, and that's why she missed her payment this month. Maybe just giving them the option to have someone switch the owner or switch the payment and answer those questions when that death actually does occur or is happening. What are people thinking about? Insurance. Who just helped them with insurance? You did. What do they want now? They want insurance. I've had it happen several times. You can't build a business on it or pay your mortgage off of it, but it will provide you opportunities in the future that you wouldn't have ever found just running leads, banging doors, and writing business without worrying about what happens next.
And then they also have some optional benefits. A nursing home waiver of premium. That's kind of like the one I was just talking about, where if you were to end up in a nursing home, they'll waive your premium so you don't lose your policy. And it's really not a whole lot extra to add that. Chris, you had a call this morning talking about, adding a little bit more premium. Like, don't just write $43 a month when they're probably thinking 45, or, don't just write 46 when they're probably thinking 50. These are little things too. You don't always just have to add to the face amount. You can add some of this other stuff that is going to bump that premium up a few dollars. That's maybe going to put them at $50 a month, but it's also adding a lot of value to what they have that is separating this from other policies that they may already have.
You could probably pay for your gas each week or your Netflix or your Fubo subscription or something. Make it tangible as a motivation to do it. But if you round up $1 or $2 per application, per client, per week, that's going to add up. I know you're going to get to accidental deaths next, so I'm going to save that one for a moment. But stop selling odd numbers. They don't budget it that way. Until you hear a client say it, you won't believe it, but maybe you'll believe me now. Stop selling odd numbers. That $56 policy, that's probably 60 to them. That $74 policy, heck, it might be 100 to them. I heard it said before, Adam, in a home, and it shook me to the core. Well, just make sure you understand, Adam, today, how much was your policy? Well, it was $82.50. But I'm just going to set aside $100 a month anyway. What? What? Why don't we just make it 100? Oh, sure, okay. Yeah. That was like an $18 a month difference between what it actually was and what they were going to set aside anyway, because that's how they thought. So we're worried about piddling over 52 cents. Round up.
Yep, I like it. And then, like you said, the next one, accidental death. It's like you knew what was coming. Yeah, same thing. That's another benefit. And I always quote just based on the face amount. And then when I'm going through the app, that's usually where when you're doing like the e-app, where it gives you the option to add the accidental death. So I'll usually add it, and then it'll spit out the quote to me right in the e-app. And then I'll just mention it to the client. Like, I know you said you wanted to do the 15,000 and it was going to be $46 a month. I just wanted to let you know that there's another benefit that if you were to die in an accident, where that's going to double. So rather than it pay 15,000, it's going to pay 30,000. And then rather than your premium being 46, it's going to be 48 a month. I mean, don't you think it's worth a few extra dollars? They always say yes. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. And then from there, the nursing home rider, I might bring that up. And I mean, heck, for an extra $2, and then you're right at 50 a month. It's going to have that as well. That makes sense, don't you think? So
look at it this way. It's your responsibility to at least ask. Heck, half the time I just build it in. Like, that comes as part of it. But it's your moral and ethical responsibility to at least offer the options available on the product. We have an agent in the agency who wrote a policy on a family member or a friend or a warm market somewhere years ago, Adam, and said person died of an accidental death. They fell out of a hunting thing. I don't know how that works. I don't hunt. Fell out of it and died. Luckily, they had insurance because this agent didn't operate as an undercover agent, but this agent didn't include the accidental death benefit, where this policy would have paid double. And for the rest of his career, I'm sure he'll always at least ask. That's why it's our responsibility to at least offer the options available on the product.
Well, another thing I always say, Chris, to people, like, let's say that their health is really good. Or maybe they're just taking like a blood pressure med, maybe cholesterol, if that. And maybe they're in their 50s, maybe early 60s. I always tell them, look, you are in really good health. The chances of you dying of natural causes right now is probably slimmer than you dying in an accident. That as you get older, that's going to kind of shift a little bit. But right now, I mean, the chances of you dying in an accident is probably more likely. So it probably makes sense to have that accidental benefit on there for an extra couple dollars, considering your health is so good. And like I said, as time goes on, maybe that's going to shift as you get older. Of course, chances of dying of natural causes is going to be higher. But while you're younger and you're in good health, I mean, I think it makes sense to pay an extra couple bucks a month to have that on there. And they agree. Let's see. And then the membership, again, we're talking about adding value here today. The membership to the Everest Funeral Concierge Service. There's a grandchild rider that can be added. I like to try to write, rather than grandchild riders, I like to write with maybe a company that might have like a 10 pay or a 20 pay option, where they can just have a policy for their grandchild that's going to be paid off in 10 years or 20 years, if they can handle doing that. Some people, they want to get a whole bunch of their grandkids covered and they just can't afford to have permanent policies on each of them. Well, then that's where a rider like this could be a good option, where at least, heck, 10 grand or whatever on a child rider, at least it's something to help when it comes to covering funeral expenses. No one wants to think of anything happening to their child or their grandchild, but at least if something were to happen, there's some coverage there. So yeah, the rider, of course, it's cheap. It covers them up until they turn 25 years old. But yeah, if they can handle doing a permanent plan, great. If not, I think the rider's a good option.
Yeah, I think we neglect how many grandparents are raising grandkids right now. Like maybe pay a little bit more attention in the home and notice this type of stuff. And if they're raising grandkids, why aren't you offering this? Again, it's your responsibility to offer the options available on the product if you're doing your job at the level that you could be. And if they're raising grandkids in the home, imagine this scenario for a second. Imagine you write Miss Betty a policy. Miss Betty's raising her grandchild like so many other grandparents are in America right now, and they both die in a fire. How foolish would you feel to help the family with that death claim, knowing you didn't offer it to somebody else that resided in the home? I'd feel like a fool, honestly. So I'd at least try to make the point of offering these riders, building them into the policy, including them, or offering individual policies for them as well.
Yeah, it's important for them to at least have something. And yeah, I wrote one a couple weeks ago that was the daughter. It was a mother, daughter, and grandchild. And yeah, I mean, she, they see the value in it. They want to make sure they understand, unfortunately, some of the areas that we work are not the nicest. A lot of them are high crime. And I mean, yeah, it sucks. Unfortunately, a lot of people have experienced the loss of even their children at a young age. Like I couldn't imagine losing a child, but it happens. It's common. Unfortunately, it's common in some of the areas that we work. So they definitely see the importance of having everybody covered, not just not just themselves. They want to make sure everybody's covered because drive-by shooting. I hear it all the time about drive-by shooting, stray bullet hit someone through the window. Things like that. I mean, it's horrible. It happens. And it's the life of where they're living and the possibility of things that could happen.
This rider is one of the biggest persistency maximizers, and the carriers will tell you that if you talk to them. One of the biggest persistency maximizers, because to Miss Betty, this policy isn't about her anymore. It's about her grandkids. It's their policy, not just her, but them as well. And when somebody gets into the home and she fills out another lead on Facebook and their policy is $6.10 cheaper, and it doesn't matter to her because it becomes more about her grandkids than her. And that's something you can't always appreciate until you've heard the carrier say it directly to you. This is a huge persistency maximizer for our policies.
Well, that's something too, I think, to make sure to explain to the client again, like before you leave. Like if anybody else ever tries to get in here to talk to you about this stuff, first thing you need to do is call me. But also remember, like this isn't just your policy. Like you got your daughter, the grandkids on here, a lot of people. So you might have someone come in here to show you a policy and they make it look like it's a lot cheaper. It really isn't, because you're getting a lot here with this policy, with all the people that are covered outside of just yourself. Because I could see that too, someone coming in and saying, oh man, you're paying way too much for this, not even looking to see if there's other people covered on the plan besides just the owner or the primary insured.
Yeah, I know we're taking up too much time today, but when I delivered policies for a year straight, when it was just me, myself, and I had a 93% persistency with that primary company. You know what I did is when I delivered the policy, Adam, I reviewed the policy. We had like a whole sit down conversation again. I turned to the summary of benefits page, not with a Sharpie, but with a highlighter. I highlighted the riders that were included in their policy so they could see what else was in it. And it made it more than just a vanilla $10,000 policy. It made it a child rider, an accidental rider, and a terminal illness benefit, who my beneficiaries were. It became as tangible as this product could possibly be.
Well, you just got to call it the family plan, because that's what they're always asking about. Do you offer the family plans? Yeah, of course I do. We got lots of them. So, yeah, nursing home waiver premium. We already talked about that. Accidental death benefit. Okay, so now we're here. We're finally to the Everest Funeral Concierge Service, and this is a free benefit that's included with the Platinum Solution product, the Platinum Legacy product. Now, Everest is a consumer advocate group. They're made up of, like, a lot of them are funeral home directors that used to be in the business and now they're on our side. It's their job to just kind of like step up and go to bat for the family when the time comes, make sure things are done right, make sure the family pays what they should be paying. And they help them put together everything ahead of time. This is a video, but for some reason, I don't know. I can't remember how to run the audio for the video. But anyways, the video basically just explains that this guy in the video he walks around. He basically says that he's already passed away and that, his family is kind of sitting there behind him at the funeral home, putting things in order, and how things were a lot easier because he put together a plan with the Everest Funeral Concierge Service, basically, where he didn't have to worry about his family walking into a funeral home and having to deal with funeral home directors that were like used car salesmen trying to upsell everything and try to get as much out of that policy as they could. These guys will actually step in and negotiate those prices and save the family quite a bit of money. They price shop it. Not only do they work with the funeral home that the family wants to use, but they'll also reach out to other funeral homes in the area and get their prices. They just use that as leverage to negotiate those prices. And they've been saving families between $2,000 and $4,000 off the cost of a traditional funeral. So again, talk about a great way of adding value. This is something that, another thing you could think about, maybe your client cannot afford a $20,000 policy. Well, you could write them a $16,000 policy or $15,000 policy with American Amicable on the Platinum Solution and explain, well, heck, these guys are going to end up saving your family quite a bit of money. You're not going to need a $20,000 policy. You might with another company, but here you're not going to need as much of a policy because these guys are going to step in and work with your family and negotiate those prices. And that $15,000 is going to go just as far as a $19,000 or $20,000 policy will probably go with another company where your family's not going to get that sort of extra assistance. So, like I said, it's a great way to add that value and maybe even save the family some money with them not having to take out as large of a policy if they can't afford it. So the Everest, it's 24/7 assistance, and my dog is going to start barking here any second because the mail person is walking up with a package. So just be ready.
Hit mute.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah. So real quick, Everest is coming to another product very soon. We know about it. You may not. Reach out to us. We'll tell you what product and how to get set up on it. But until then, Everest is built into this product and includes 24-hour assistance. Gives them someone to call in a moment of grief. I had a death claim over the summer while I was on vacation. Luckily, I knew the family and I could kind of point them in the right direction. But when you sell enough insurance, you can't answer every call that quick on the fly. They can get that with Everest. A funeral planning tool. They can write down the documents, save the documents, have them somewhere where they can be retrieved. Negotiation assistance, like Adam already talked about. Funeral directors are in a business. In some small towns, they may only have a few funerals a year. They need to make enough money to stay in business themselves. You want to make sure your family isn't giving away the entire policy if it isn't necessary. And it's just a great value add. It's the sizzle. It makes it tangible. It makes it something the client wants to keep. And when the next agent gets in the door with the next cheapest product on the market, it may not have this built into it. Again, will prep. People want a will. People are constantly asking me, how do I get a will? I ain't a lawyer. I don't know. But I know that I can offer you this product. Storage and retrieval of important documents. Proceeds benefit paid out within 48 hours. All this kind of stuff that really speaks to somebody who you've just had a conversation to about their final expenses.
Even this Tenzing is something that it's like a living benefit. It's the sort of thing that you can store like your passwords, your usernames for all these different websites. And that's one thing too. Heck, I get confused and I forget my passwords all the time because I feel like I have to update them like every 3 months with all these different, different insurance companies, just a whole bunch of different accounts where I have to update the passwords. You can store the passwords in this little server on this Tenzing thing. And I even kind of go through that with my clients, just something that'll help you even right now. You can use it almost as like cloud storage, just like iCloud or like Google Drive. I'll even mention that you could put together a slideshow for your funeral, and you can store those pictures right in here, because that's another thing. Usually that's something the family does at the time of need. All of a sudden they're pulling out a bunch of pictures and they're trying to put together a lot of these slideshows and stuff. You could help and do all that ahead of time. But most importantly, I think here is the quick pay, where they make sure that money is going to be to the family within as little as 48 hours. So it's going to be there to serve its purpose. Like I always talk about, we want to make sure this is going to serve its purpose. And this is something that gives the client the confidence that it's going to, and that money is going to be there for the family when they need it. And then they simply just, when they get the policy, they can contact Everest. They can discuss their wishes. They can put everything in order together. They put their whole plan together. Everest will store that into their secure system. When the time comes, all the family has to do is make a phone call. So when I'm in a home, I'll mention to the client, I don't know if your son or daughter has ever had to plan a funeral, and I don't know what that day is going to look like for them when you pass away. But this is something that's going to make things a lot easier on them, because all they're going to have to worry about doing is making that one phone call. I'm telling you, that sells itself. They're doing this for their family. They see something like this, it's going to make things a heck of a lot easier because they took the time to put it all together ahead of time.
Yeah. And if you're watching this and you're thinking to yourself, I just need to make it, I can barely make it, can barely afford leads, not sure how long I'm going to be able to stick in the business. For every policy that you write, when you deliver the policy and you review that slide with them and you help them set this stuff up, not only have you solidified the crap out of that policy, but then you ask them, who else can I set this up for? Who else do you think might benefit from something like this? Turn every opportunity into another referral through a product like this, and you're going to be in the kind of shape you need to survive in the business.
Yeah. Like I said, we're talking about selling on value today and ways of doing that. And I think that the examples that we gave you are things that are going to make a difference. And like I said, last week, if you didn't see it, go back and watch it. We talked about ways of improving persistency to keep your business on the books. Right here, this is something that's going to greatly improve your persistency. The Platinum Solution product with American Amicable incorporated in with this Everest funeral concierge service that, like I said, it's going to give your client that mindset that it's not just another insurance. This is their funeral plan. And someone can come in here and offer me more insurance, but I'm never getting rid of my funeral plan. So, and for additional training, check out my website, of course, adambersan.com. Check out the youtube.com/c/Adam Bersan. Also check out the insurance, life, and everything in between YouTube channel, Facebook group, and audio podcast. Lots of good content on there. Our audio, Chris, I think we are just about to load our 75th episode already. Can you believe that?
That's an amazing amount of content available at no cost. Don't have to pay for it, subscribe to it. It's not behind a paywall. It's available for you. And if you're not receiving that kind of training from your agency, here's Adam's contact information on why you should reach out.
Yeah, get a hold of us. This is important. We're here to help. And we want to see people make it in this business long term, and we'll do everything that we can to help you get there. So thanks again, everybody. I hope y'all have a great week. Feel free to reach out to me if you need me, and we'll see you again, same time, same place next Monday. Thanks again.
Monday.